Today on For This Reason, we have Tshamano Radzilani, who made his first million at the age of 19 years old. He's a successful entrepreneur who's been through so many ups and downs in business, but however, he always gets up and he ensures to rebuild again. You're truly going to be inspired by this story. Maybe going back to the decision, when you left school, did you have a plan?
So when I left school, I didn't necessarily have a plan, but I always knew that I had a burning drive in me. Tenders is South African-based business modules for government because government can't do their own things, so they procure it. So I made the most money in tenders. The most I've made in tenders was 4.5 million. I was kidnapped in 2023 because of tenders. I got a tender that someone wanted. Quite a few tenderpreneurs go through it. People get killed as a tenderpreneur because I won a tender and you were bidding for it, or you had some engagement with that tender. I just learned this year that nobody cares what you have, whether you have millions or not. Nobody has to know.
I want to thank all of you that have liked and subscribed to our channel and have shared the video. It helps us greatly to continue growing and bringing you the best content. I want to ask one thing of you. In this specific episode, I want to ask each and every one of you that watch this podcast to network in the comment section. Let somebody know what business you're in, how you help them in that business, and how they can get a hold of you so that more and more people can communicate within the comment section. I'll also check them out and see what type of entrepreneurs are watching For This Reason. Chamano, you bought your first car at the age of 19. A lot of people would be surprised to say, how did you do that? And what car was that?
So in 2021, I was in high school. I went to Primrose High, which is in the Upper Bedford View. I went there my whole high school career, but then I dropped out of school in grade 10, which my mom, my family, everyone was not happy about, and which is basic. No one would be happy hearing their son is dropping out of school. Didn't know what I was going to do. And I stayed at my mom's house. My mom was like, you know what, you're a man, so please exit yourself from my place. I took my bags and I left my mom's place, went to stay by a few friends. And in that journey of staying with a few friends, I started cutting grass. I sold eggs. And then I found out about tenders. And then I looked into it more. And then I started nagging Transnet for applications to do tenders. And they told me the process. And they said, you have to get a vendor number. And I said, okay, how do I get a vendor number? They said, you have to respond to our request of quotations. I did that. And from responding to request of quotations, I managed to get a vendor number. Well, a purchase order for 30,000. Now, question was, where do I get the money to fund the project? Went around, looked for everyone, spoke to a few people that I knew that had money. They said, okay, I found this guy. His name was Mike. He's into security. And he was like, okay, cool. How much do you need? I said, I need 18,000. The profit in this project is 11,000 Rand. He's like, okay, I'll give you the money, but we have to split the profit 50-50. Me never having to approach an investor, I took the 50% agreement. When the money came, gave him. And then I funded the project. Transnet gave me my vendor number. And from there, I never looked back.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, to even think like that, a lot of people would say that, you know, for the viewers that don't know, a tender is a government contract. But a lot of people would say you have to go through lots of hurdles to get a government contract. What was that drive in you that said, I will be able to get a vendor number? It doesn't matter that I haven't finished school. And how did you overcome those hurdles?
So for me, when I found out this information, I was only 17 years old, and I got my first vendor number in 2022 January. I remember that very well. I woke up and I got an email from Transnet. I got a vendor number. So my passion behind it was like, I don't want to ever be broke. And someone told me that in tenders, you can make your own markups. You can make ridiculous markups and make millions. And I know people that do tenders, and I've seen that I've made a lot of money. So I was like, you know what, in order for me to get my first tender, I got to do 100. I remember the whole year I was sending Transnet RFQs and not getting any response. I think I sent them over 100 RFQs,
Yeah.
and I did that consistently. And when I got my first vendor number, I was like, no, man, these things can be, the system is rigged. These things can be done easily. So found out about the Transnet portal now, where there's bigger tenders over 500,000, over 1 million. In March that year, after I got my first vendor number with my first purchase order, which was 30,000, got that paid out, I said, let me do bigger ones. Started bidding, and then I got a grass cutting deal. How ironic that I used to cut grass to make money. I got that, and Transnet said, let's cut the railways. And we did a tender for almost close to 1.4 million, cutting the railways for 30 days. And then I went and I bought my first car, which was a Ford Ranger, which was a stupid move. I ain't gonna lie, but it also was a learning curve. I was happy and I don't regret it.
That's very inspirational, being a go-getter and being able to do that. But maybe going back to the decision, when you left school, did you have a plan or?
So when I left school, I didn't necessarily have a plan, but I always knew that I had a burning drive in me. Like I had that burning spirit because I was good. Like academically, I was very good. Like maths, my maths teacher still asks me today, why did you leave school? And I'm just like, sir, it was not for me. And I don't encourage people to leave school or anything because I'm still learning until now. Like, this morning I was speaking to my mom and I was asking her about like gross incomes and net income and stuff there. And she was like, you should study like financial literacy, just a little bit, a short course and things like that. And I was like, I'll definitely look into that because there was a few things I was looking through my own business proposal and I was asking myself questions about it. So I had to call someone else that was educated to advise me. So now I am still going to look into doing financial literacy. So when I dropped out of school, it was just a thing of, I don't want to be the typical South African boy that is going to go to school, graduate, finish university and start applying for jobs. There's people out there that are applying for jobs with degrees, with honors, with PhDs. I don't know how long the list goes, and they're struggling. Not that they can't get it, they're just struggling to get it generally. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to come out of this poverty. When I'm going to sell eggs for the rest of my life, I'm really going to do it because the only thing is scaling. People that sell eggs make a lot of money. There's millionaires that sell eggs. So that's just my drive on that.
Before we even get there, I mean, let's first start with, because I think you've got a vast experience in many business ventures that you've done. For somebody watching who is saying, how does the tender system work? What's the difference between an RFQ and an order and this and that? Just break it down for them so that they can understand that.
So actually, I was actually supposed to be writing a book on how to do tenders in South Africa. I actually had a lady in Cape Town that was helping me, but I actually bailed on her on that. I actually put on a whole pause. We're ready for. We had the notes, everything. So I must actually look into doing that again. That's something I'm gonna do. But tenders is South African-based business modules for government because government can't do their own thing, so they procure it. And procuring means getting something that I can't get. Anyone can procure something. If you can't get a toilet paper, I'll get it for you, but at a cost, or procuring is also a service. So in that case, with government tenders, it's RFQ, request of quotation, or RFI, request of information, RFP, request of proposal, and then you bid for those things. Government reviews it between 3 to 6 months, and then the second process behind that is you get a purchase order. Once you have a purchase order, they put you through an application where you get a vendor number to show that you're on the database for that certain department, as there are multiple departments in the government system. And then from there, once you have a vendor number, you become like one of the top picks. If you bid for them and they've seen you supplied and your quality is good, they continuously pick your company up for any request. The only thing about government tenders these days in 2025, 2024, previously and going on, is that now tenders, people want a big piece of the pie from it. Because they're not audited by the South African government here on, okay, how much is a car that the government is requiring? you can go and price it at 1.5 million, and the government will check it after 2 years, once they've already paid the purchase order and everything. So that's the only problem I have with tenders, because they're irregulated, and so they will only audit that particular project after a certain timeline. And for me, it's once they do that, for us that are tenderpreneurs, we struggle, because now we can't get another tender until that's been finalized on where did that money go. So, and they're given a budget every year, brand new budget, whether it's 50 million, 100 million, depends what department it is. I was reading a news article with what's that party called? But anyways, not mentioning parties.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
they were auditing, and they were about the netball society team, on where all that money went. People on consultation, they spend about 80,000 rand. What are you doing consulting for 80,000 rand? But those are tenders released by the people that are working inside, and they just release tenders just for the sake of their friends or whoever to get tenders. So that's my take on it.
Would you say that the reason why tenders are so contested, or people like them, is because they're overpriced? Because there's always been this conversation where people are saying, the government paid, recently we saw somebody saying the government paid 2 million for how many laptops? I think it was 20 laptops. Guys in the comment section can check me. But would you say there's an issue there? How does that pricing thing work? Is it that that's standard, or?
So I don't think government made the tender system to give job opportunities. Hence, we have the BEE for black people, black young people, especially for black young females. I do advise for black young females to reach out on doing tenders, because they get a higher bar when the tenders are rated. Especially if that's why when I started my first business, I opened it with the female, not knowing that it's better if the female's alone in the business, because then she gets 100% female, 100% black, and 100% youth. So she's rated more on the BEE certificate. So she has, whether I bid it lower, but she has higher chances of opportunity in it. And also government also give out tenders to people that are mainly in like rural areas and things like that, to like build them so that they can have a job opportunity. But then people went ahead and took an advantage to be like, okay, cool. If I have toilet paper that's 2 rand and no one's going to check it, I can sell it to the government for 50 rand. And that's close to 1,000% profit, So I just feel that they're just not regulated, and there's no profit margin to it. You can put whatever profit margin you want, as long as you supply to the government, and that shows that, okay, we bought toilet paper for 50 rand. That's done. Then they'll sideline it. So my take on it is that government just need to look more on it, and maybe put a bar to like, this is the max that you can go on certain items. They should have a research team to be like, okay, we need 10 BMWs. BMWs are 300,000. Let's give them a profit margin of 50%, so they can't charge us more than 750 per vehicle. So that's just how I feel government system should work. They are a tender basis, have a research team to be like, okay, we are giving job opportunity still, but let's give 50% markup at most. Let's give, even if it's 100% markup, because I've done a tender where I've marked up 400% and I enjoyed the money, So that's just, tender money does not last. Take tender money, build a business with it. That's good enough. But in terms of regulating it, they should really look into it big time.
Very interesting insights. You've just said before this, you said you can make money off selling eggs. And I think many people out there might be wondering, but what does he mean? Do you want to just break that down a bit?
So how I started by selling eggs, my auntie used to sell eggs at her workplace. And I just asked her, where do you buy your eggs? She was like, no, I buy them from the supplier at 30 rand. That was back in 2021, before the egg inflation. And then she's like, I asked her, how much do you sell it for? She's like, no, I sell them for 55 rand 30. and I bring it to you and everything. And I was like, okay, cool. Can you buy me 10 trays? And she bought me 10 trays, and I went out and I sold them. I went in front of a church door. The church was in Kensington. I'm not going to mention the church for particular reasons, but yeah, I sold in front of, and they all sold out just before service even started. People bought and put their eggs in the car. And I was like, okay, cool. And I went out and I bought more eggs. And there was a Sunday where I sold 50 eggs. And I was like, okay, you know what? 50 trays of eggs. So that I made, I think, close to like 2,000 Rand profit. And that was a lot to me because I had nothing. I was staying with friends. Then I was like, let me expand. I went to a sweet shop and I bought biscuits. I was like, people after church are always hungry. Sell the eggs in the morning, sell them the rest after church. The kids would see me with my buckets of biscuits outside there. And they would say, Mommy, I want, Daddy, I want. And they would buy. Biscuits would sell out like crazy. And I found out about that, you know what, scaling is key. The more I have, the more people want to buy. And not because they can't go to Pick and Pay, Spar, Checkers and buy their eggs, but because I am right there at their service, and the way I am serving them, they chose to buy from me, you know. And the way I always told them that, no, I clean the eggs myself, because getting them from the supplier were always dirty. You know, they looked at a young black boy trying to build himself. And I would still open an egg business till today. If I had the time, or when I have the time, delegate few people and open an egg business, an egg farm, have chickens, have everything. Especially for me that comes from vendor, I know a lot of people that own egg farms and make a living from it. Besides egg farm, like fruits, your veggies, everything, most of them have farms and they just dispatch them to your local suppliers. And that's just how I take small business enterprises like that. It's just scaling and having the passion to be hands-on.
If in your entrepreneurial journey, I mean, you started quite early, what's the most amount of money that you've made? And what was that business? Was it the tenders?
So I made the most money in tenders. I made a lot of money in tenders. I think the most I've made in tenders was 4.5 million. And from that, I took that money and I invested in crypto, which made my second leap of money. And a particular coin that I would love to expose, because it's still my favorite, is Cardano. I invested in Cardano. I bought Cardano when it was 50 cents. I sold it when it went to 6 Rand. That same month when it went to 6 Rand, it went to 42 Rand. Did I not regret myself? But anyways, we learn on that. And it's actually my most invested coin right now that I still have. But yeah, crypto and tenders was my most biggest milestones of making money. And yeah, I feel that if I invested in crypto and in tenders now, I would have been 10 times bigger than I am right now, because I made stupid decisions. I've been to clubs where I've blown like 200, 300K, and I don't even drink alcohol. But
I was not expecting that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I did that. I always look at videos of myself. There's these signs at the clubs that they have. I remember in 2022 when I made my first million, I had a sign, biggest baller. And I was like, what happened to that money? Because I didn't drink that alcohol.
Sure.
I think I drank a Red Bull that night.
Yeah.
But I spent it on girls that went home to their husbands and boyfriends. And yeah, I think I just had a ridiculous spending time.
In that journey, I mean, learning about spending habits, and I think, you know, from going from not having money and sleeping with friends and now having money, what do you think caused the bad spending habits? Do you think it was maybe not preparing, or why did you find yourself doing things that wasted money?
So I wanted to be seen. Like when I bought my first car, the Ford Ranger, I customized it, put my name on it, Chummy 1. And then I went to school, showed my principal. He's actually still proud of me right now. He texts me once in a while, be like, hey, how you doing? Is everything good? You know, he's happy for me. Unfortunately, he's a principal. He can't condone other people to be like me. So I just wanted to show off. I wanted to show people that, you guys discriminated me and told me that I'm not gonna make it. I had teachers that told me that were making examples of me in class, be like, you guys are gonna be like Chamano, you guys are gonna be like Chamano. You don't want to be like him. And now I look back and I'm like, do I wanna be that guy to be like, you guys still don't wanna be like me? But nevertheless, it was a thing of just showing off to be like, guys, we can do it. If you put your mind to it, you can do it. And I just now, when I'm living my life last year and this year, I just figured that no one cares of what you have. I stayed in Cape Town for a good year, and I just realized that there's people that drive Bentleys, Lamborghinis. I know a guy personally that drives a Bugatti, and um he just doesn't want to show off. I went with my mentor this year and in February, and he was like, Chummy, nobody cares. We went to Rolls Royce and he bought a Cullinan. The day we went with him, he just walked out with a bag and we were just looking at cars. And the next day I saw him driving it and I was like, so when did you buy this? Did you rent it or anything? He's like, no, I bought it yesterday when you were with me. I was like, but how did the bank finance? He's like, I bought it cash. And I was like, but sir, I was with you. Why didn't you tell me? He's like, if I told you you're going to say congratulations and I was going to go home with my car, you're going to go home with your car. Then what? So I just learned this year that nobody cares what you have, whether you have millions or not. Nobody has to know what you have.
I mean, you lived in Johannesburg at your peak and you moved to Cape Town. Why did you go to Cape Town and what did you find in Cape Town?
So in Cape Town, I went there for exposure in a different scenario because I grew up in Joburg and I was too comfortable, and I had friends and family. Everyone always been like, yo, Chummy, can you please send us 100 Rand? Can you please send us 200 Rand? I wanted to go into a scenario where I have people around me talking about millions, billions, and that's where, when I went to Cape Town, I joined the gym, the silo, where we met, also the class collection gym, because people around there, they don't talk 100 Rands and no one will be coming to you to bother you for any reason, no matter where you gym in, unless where you in like your communication areas, where it's your coffee shop, your bathrooms, but people in that environment talk differently and want to be approached differently, so I took myself out of that space where no one would even ask me for 1,000 Rand. I still get messages from Joburg, but in Cape Town, no one would have the audacity to ask for any kind of money because they respected me and I respected them. So it was just a change of scenario, and I just wanted to grow because I always knew that if I'm in an environment where I want to live in, that I like, I will get to it. There's people in Cape Town that pay rent for 60K, 80K a month. How are they doing that? So I was like, if you pay rent for 80K, what's your salary a month? So I always wanted to get that. And ever since I moved to Cape Town, my rent has been increasing. Started off from 5,000 from a sharing apartment, all the way to a penthouse for 20,000. So, and that's the life I wanted because I know I'm gonna grow. Because if I see my neighbor doing it, I'm also gonna want it. And that's just how I took it, because that's also how it stopped my bad spending habits. Because my neighbor wouldn't be spending on alcohol, but I would. So he has his priorities straight. So I also got my priorities straight.
That's amazing, being in the right environment. And now where you are at the moment, what businesses are you focusing on? What are you currently focusing on?
So currently I just ventured into a new business, a media space. And that was also because I wanted to uplift a young black lady, which is my partner. I found her doing media, photography, digital marketing, and I was like, let's build a studio. And, she asked me, what do I need to bring into the table? And I said, nothing. You bring yourself and I'll fund everything. And now we're partners 50-50 in it. And she's happy. She's running the whole show. She's going to China very soon for a media event which she's excited about, you know. So I love growing people. If you have a business, I want to grow it with you. But yeah, so that's what I just ventured into now. But my main business that I really want to grow to its max is my security company. My security company, I started it in 2023. Um, I was kidnapped in 2023 because of tenders.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What
So
happened?
so I got a tender that someone wanted, and um, they found out it was my company that got it. They took leads on me. They knew the exact date when I was getting paid. When I got paid, they took that money. They captured me in Centurion, and they
So
had me
you were
for
just
4 days.
going out.
Yeah, I was just going out. I was in Centurion, and they captured me for 4 days, and they whipped me. If I show you my back, it's pretty bad. So they whipped me, and they took all the money that was in my account. And yeah, I was only returned after 4 days. I was dropped in Centurion, and I had to hike back to Joburg to my mom's house.
Yeah. And
So
the police help it anyway? Do you have any
we
leads?
did have cases open, but there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's really nothing to the case. I don't even think, maybe the case is closed now. I haven't even decided follow up.
And hence why then it makes sense that you say you want to focus on security, because
Yeah, so
it's a big issue.
and it's just having money. Like, they made me unlock my bank account and transfer that money. They had me for 4 days because it was 400,000 only, and because the max to do an instant payment was 100,000. The bank would call me and it'd be like, "Is everything okay?" And they told me to say everything is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they did that,
Did the
and
bank refund you the money? Was there any?
I did the transactions. I said I'm okay.
Yeah.
The bank will refund you the money if money was stolen from your account and you reported it with immediate effect.
What if you did the transactions?
If I did the transaction, it's different. And it's just
Yeah.
4 consistent transactions.
Where were they keeping you?
They were keeping me in a warehouse somewhere in Pretoria. They drilled a hole through my shoe. Yeah. My left foot has got drill marks underneath it. So
Was that because you weren't
cooperating. Yeah.
Yeah. And to the point where you started cooperating and you started sending the money, were they now then feeding you? And I'm just
I
imagining.
didn't eat for 4 days. Didn't eat for 4 days. They were giving me water though. I was in my own waste for 4 days.
Yeah.
Like, I was in my own waste for 4 days. That was bad. So I decided to open a security company to be like, you know, Chummy, you're gonna break the South African law. And that's why I want my security company to be involved in technology to its maximum potential, to be like to a point where we tap in phones, where we've got drones flying all over you. If you're a high profile person and you have a lot of money that you need to take from point A to point B. Yeah,
Have you found other people that say they've experienced the same thing?
I have quite a few tenderpreneurs go through it. People get killed as a tenderpreneur because I won a tender and you were bidding for it, or you had some engagement with that tender. Or if I was doing tenders for the government to supply food for them for the past 5 years, and now a newbie comes in and takes my work from me, like, tenderpreneurs will literally ask you, "You taking my bread from my kids," but it's not your work. That's the only sad part about being in the tender industry.
I mean, that must have been traumatic. How did you recover and continue going stronger after such a terrible experience?
Um, I really don't think I did. That year, I remember I lost my relationship. I lost friends because I had nothing after that. Um, that was the only money I had left, and everything just collapsed because remember, I was the biggest baller in the clubs. So I lost that kind of circle that I was sponsoring.
Mm.
And I lost a lot of weight. I was actually really huge. Back then, I was used to be like 170 kgs, and then I pushed myself last year, to make a decision that I need to lose weight. Now I'm 115, but still in the journey. Um, so I don't think even till now it still traumatizes me. Um, yeah, I'm always looking over my back 24/7.
Yeah, we live in such a sad country where these things can happen. But talking about entrepreneurship, I mean, there's people listening here that are listening to your journey that would be inspired. I mean, your journey's truly been phenomenal. How do you go into an industry and decide that I'm going to make it and grow it big? For the viewers that are watching that are saying they often, think about entrepreneurship and they
Yeah.
just stop.
So that's where goals and targets come in and risk. So I told my partner, the one I opened with Suffix Library, the media house, I told her, I'm giving this business 12 months. If it doesn't make our target in this 12 months, then we close it. We'll move on to the next business. That means it's not meant to be. Because a business, it has trial and error. Like the first month, we haven't made any cent, like profit. We've made money to just cover expenses and everything. But I think we split 500 last month. So we can't even survive on that. Second month, we're giving it a trial. Third month, by the sixth month, it has to say, okay, this is my maximum I can go as the business. Then we know that's the maximum of the business potential. But that's also with us maximizing on it, like reaching out, making sales, making calls, new developments, proposals, So it's in any business, whether you're selling eggs, tell yourself that in a month I want to sell 30 eggs. If you don't sell those 30 eggs, then move on to the next business. Go try biscuits. Give yourself targets, and if you reach it, give it 2-3 months and see if it's good for you. Because remember, some businesses have seasons. So let's see what season it works for and try it then. In everything, my barber today, he came to my place to cut my hair and he was like, don't you want to invest in my salon? And I was like, what do you want to do? Where do you want to take it? Because I can invest in your salon, buy you fancy equipment, but what's going to happen? And he was like, no, he wants to do more house calls, but he wants to have a team that do house calls. So, and I was like, that's something we can look into. But now you're talking about mobile equipment. He wants like wireless hair clippers and things like that, chairs and stuff like that. So I was just like, that's something we can look into. But for me, it's not sustainable that you want to get other barbers to run under your wing, because at the end of the day, those barbers also need to make ends meet for themselves. Because what, are you gonna charge more for a haircut to try and cover them and you in the profit, in the margins? But he does have an idea. He really does have an idea. So I suggested to him, look at making a man's cave. A man's cave where you have a seated saloon, where you have people come in. They have most probably a PlayStation, a pool table, where they can look at suits, partner up with the tailor person, and where their suits, the person has their tailor or a clothing brand where they have their clothing lines out there. While you cutting one's hair, they're busy with activities around you. Because every single man wants to get out of the house, whether you're married, single, coming from work, wants to get out of the house and go somewhere where they don't have to be paying bills, where they don't have to be looked up to as a man. So a man's cave is something. I was like, look into that. And he was like, that's a research that he's going to do. So it's just about scaling and giving yourself target. That's how I feel like a successful entrepreneur will do. It's the same. I'll put it into crypto form. The person that made Bitcoin, he knew Bitcoin is going to come to where it is right now at $100,000. And I heard recently that Bitcoin is going to reach 10 million rand, $10 million. Like, that's ridiculous. Imagine one Bitcoin goes to 10 billion rand, 10 million rand. That's crazy. So if a person that we don't even know has targets for his own business, what more about someone that you know or yourself that is working on the business ground force? So
What motivates you? What encourages you to keep pushing? I mean, you've been through quite a lot at a very... How old are you now?
I'm 23.
So at a very young age, you've already been through a lot. What keeps you pushing?
So what keeps me pushing is God. My mom always insisted that we go to church. And I went to church forcefully. My mom forced me to go to church. I remember there was a time I wanted to embarrass my mom, and I went to church in pajamas. And she was like, "You're not embarrassing me, you're embarrassing yourself." At the end of the day, she was like, she's not going to have my blood on her hands. She's like, because God will say, why didn't you take him to church? Or why didn't you teach him? She's like, if you go astray, it's on you. God knows I've done my part. So every time we're in her house, I had to go to church. It was a must. My little brother is aware that if he doesn't go to church, he's in boarding school. He won't go to, he won't get pocket money for that whole month. Or my mom takes the Wi-Fi cables and he won't have internet for the rest of the holiday period he's at home. So that's just that. And my faith has grown exponentially from the time I dropped out of school, because every time I said, God, I need to get through this, I got through it. I never thought that I'd recover from the kidnapping trauma and things like that. As I said, that I still haven't, but it's God, he's holding me up. There's a lot of people that don't get through their traumas, like losing a loved one or something, but because they have God holding them up, they move on with life and they live it to the end.
Very profound wisdom from somebody so young. I mean, as we get to a close of the interview, what does the future look like for you? Because we ask people to say, what legacy do you want to leave behind? But I think you've already done so much, but you still got a lot more capability to do. So what do you want to do? What are you building? What does the future look like?
So for me, my future is by the age of 30, I'd love to retire and become a speaker. In terms of business, retiring, like businesses running, bringing an income, and just having generational wealth for my family, that my existing family and my future family. I'd love to become a speaker so that I can teach young entrepreneurs and young people that are motivated to do something for themselves and their family on how to grow, whether it's faith-based, whether it's business-based, whether it's physically, emotionally, anything. That's just me, where I want to get myself to, and that's in like 7 years. And we are most probably going to be, in the next 7 years, AI would have taken over. So that's something I would love to invest in my whole life potential in learning. So yeah, that's just like my future. And after 30, I don't think I can project it any further. But that's my goal for the future.
And if you had to encourage somebody who's watching, I mean, as we close off, what would you say to them? Somebody who's sort of looking at you and saying, you're on fire, you're doing well, but, they're not doing so well. What encouragement would you give them?
My encouragement to anyone that is in whatever industry that you're doing, I would encourage you to keep going, seek advice, and listen and learn. Those are key things. Learning every day is more important than anything else. I've got business people that I've listened to, and that I call almost every business person that I meet that takes interest in me my mentor, because I learn every single day. Every single day. As I gave an example, my mentor that bought a car recently, I've never received not even 1 rand from him. But just because he'll call me and be like, yo, Chummy, can you take me to the airport? Can you take me here? In that few 30 minutes that I'm with him, I learn a lot. Whether he's on a call. Yesterday I found out, I took him to the airport. Actually, yesterday I found out that a kg of gold is 1.8 million rand. I was like, that's crazy. I don't think people are educated about that. People don't know that, and there's people saying that, yeah, gold is expensive, gold is this, but do you know the value of gold? And just because he was on a call telling someone that, yo, he's got gold at Fidelity, 3 kgs. In my head, I thought 3 kgs was small, because 3 kgs is literally a bag of sugar, and it's 1.8 million for one. So that's about 5 million rand that he has right there. And that's learning and listening. Those are main keys for anyone in this life.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.